oil country. This is the premiere of the Heavy Hockey Podcast. The greatest thing about hockey is how it brings people together. The Heavy Hockey Network is committed to bringing hockey fans together through fan-created content, and we're bringing that philosophy to the Heavy Hockey Podcast. We've got a fantastic team of amazing Oilers fan content creators, and we're coming together to bring you this weekly show where all your favorite heavy hockey personalities, and Patrick, will get together and talk Oilers hockey. Our logo features the Walterdale Bridge as a symbol of connection and a symbol of Edmonton. And of course, a hockey stick to represent the passion that unites us. The stick doubles as a road, which narrows to represent the increasing difficulty of winning as the end goal gets closer. Orange and blue are incorporated to represent the Oilers, and the 5 silver rungs on the bridge represent the franchise's 5 Stanley Cup wins. We were sure to leave room for a 6th rung. We're excited. We're going to be taking turns hosting each week to keep the show feeling fresh, and we're all excited to bring it to you here on the Heavy Hockey Network and on Edmonton Sports Talk via TuneIn and iHeartRadio. While the show has a new name and a new look, the format will be mostly familiar for those of you that have been watching Oilers Live over the last couple years. I'll let Michael talk about what's going to happen with Oilers Live in a minute here, but for now, I'll say hello and welcome to the Heavy Hockey Podcast. I'm Ryan Lotzberg, senior writer for the Heavy Hockey Network, and adjacent to me are all the faces that you'll see the most often on this show. To my immediate right, I've got Kevin McCurdy and Bob the goalie in the top corner, like the exact spot he gets beat most often. We've got the podfather of the Heavy Hockey Network, Michael Hebert. We got our friend of the show, Josh at Tough Call Pod. Yeah, Patrick, the Oilers fanatic.
Come on, bring it.
And and last but not least, Dash in the Park.
Why don't I get a little nifty introduction like the rest of them? Why do I just have a name?
You got last but not least.
No introduction needed for you, Mr. What are you, the most frequent guest on the Hangout these days?
Jeez. Yeah, I'll be on there tomorrow.
Excellent. So we'll be sure to look out for that on Edmonton Sports Talk, 11 a.m. Mountain. And so with that, I'm going to pass it over to Michael to talk a little bit about why you're watching the Heavy Hockey Podcast right now and not Oilers Live, and what's going to happen with Oilers Live going forward here.
Yeah, no, that's great. I'm excited about this new format of the Heavy Hockey Podcast. Good to see all the guys on here for once. Feels a little bit like Hollywood Squares tonight, but we're going to change that shortly as a couple of us drop off for the evening to tune in and listen in to these guys just kill it tonight for the first episode. Yeah, Oilers Live. I mean, it was, we're just trying to make sure that everybody's got a spot and a place within the Heavy Hockey Network. This team has grown significantly over the past couple of years, and we've got some great people putting together content. And so, I want to go back to the roots of Oilers Live, and that's as an interview podcast, and go back, interview people around the league and do stories that, I think matter and hopefully everybody else thinks matters. We'll do that. I'll do that on, hopefully it'll be a 2-3 times a month. We'll get some good interviews going and stream them when we do them at specific times throughout the week. And then you'll find the content on youtube.ca/heavy hockey. So just really excited about all these guys and listening to the various different opinions. As Josh commented earlier today in the group chat, it's a rare occasion that we all agree, but that makes for great podcasting, great streaming, and everything else. So happy to hand over the reins of this time slot and this live stream over to some very qualified hosts, and just happy to kind of see a new direction for the Heavy Hockey Network.
And it's super exciting to be a part of it and to have the opportunity to have all of us showcase ourselves a little bit more and what we can do. And also to be able to bring you content a little more consistently. I think that's a big thing for us at the Heavy Hockey Network. So we're super excited about that. Super excited about getting to go on with all you guys as always. But we'll go around the horn, talk a little bit about the show. And Kevin, I guess we'll start with you.
Yeah, sorry, technical difficulties here. I'm super excited to be part of the team starting up with the new pod here. It's been kind of I guess a little bit of a road as we've taken on some of the initial podcasts and decided what we want to do. And we'll see, maybe there'll be even some more content varieties being added over time as we go here. Really excited to be here, and I'm looking forward to bringing people information about Oilers, hockey, and whatever else we want to talk about.
Awesome. And then Bob?
Yeah, first off, shout out to the Blue Jays right here. I have it on credible source, that being me, that they are huge fans of the show. They probably got a watch party right now for our premiere episode. So thanks for tuning in, boys. Appreciate it. Yeah, like one of the best things ever happened to me online was getting to be a part of this network. I was originally a guest actually on Oilers Lab back when it was like a fan interview show. That's kind of how it all began. And then I just didn't let go, kept hassling Michael for more spots and what have you. And here I am. They begrudgingly added me to their roster. My passion outside of my family is hockey. To be able to go on a platform like this and talk about my passion is a huge privilege. So I appreciate every one of you for giving me that opportunity. I appreciate every listener that tunes in and listens to me babble on. And I always thank the ones that tune out once I sign off. But no, I'm really excited about this new chapter in heavy hockey.
Awesome. Yeah, we're excited that you get to be a part of it, Bob. Like, yeah, your good humor and the goaltending takes and all your other takes too, I suppose, I guess. Definitely valued. Josh, over to you.
Well, the passion that this group has, it's unreal. Rubs off on you. They can bring you up when you're feeling down, and when you're feeling good about the team, they can also cut the legs out from under you and start arguments and debates. And that's the beauty of being a hockey fan. And that's what we are. We're just a group of hockey fans that we feel very strongly about the game and this team. And we want to share that with the heavy hockey community. And the heavy hockey community is a community. And that's what I love about it. We have our regular listeners. We have our regular contributors. We have our regular spats and our regular opinions. But at the end of the day, we're all here for the same reason, the love of the game. And that's what we bring to it. They forced me to say that, and I'm only here so I don't get fined.
Good. Now we won't dock your paycheck.
10 games. 10 games.
The maximum per the CBA.
10 podcast suspension. Michael, make a note.
And Patrick, over to you.
Well, we got a great group of guys here, even Lotzi. I mean, most days anyway. I mean, he's an okay host. What can you do? Tight budget, but yeah, no,
That's what you get.
yeah. No, I wanted to join this community, this channel, because I saw the great potential that there is in it. And I think if we can get more consistent content out for you guys, more videos to watch on a weekly basis here, I think the community will just keep growing and growing. And like I said, we got a great group of guys here. I'm really excited for the potential, what we can build here together. Michael, Dash, like you guys have already built this amazing thing, but I think it's not even close to the potential that it has. So really excited for the future here. And this is the first step in that really exciting direction.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely an exciting step in that direction. And yeah, Michael and Dash, and big shout out to you two for giving us the platform to do all this and to make this happen. And with that, pass it over to Dash.
Yeah, let me reintroduce myself since Ryan did a very below average job of doing it in the first place. But I am Dash in the Park, generally the heel of this group and this podcast. So all the comments that come later about how annoying that I am, that I interrupt people and, count down till Michael tells me to shut the hell up. But all due
Can we get the show started, please?
all due
We're ready.
respect. All due
We're going.
respect to Michael, he's one of the best people in the world. He's one of my best friends, and I'm happy to be partners with him in this. Don't cut me off, Michael, because you'll get all long winded on something, and Jesus, man, nobody needs that. So I would just like to say, yeah, I'm proud of all you guys. It's a fun group to be a part of. Michael, thanks for letting me be an OG. Thanks for letting me be the co-host and more guest appearances than anybody else in Oilers live history. It's a nice little feather in my cap, was along with most hangout history appearances for EST. So good times, which also says, we're not just a bunch of fans. Yeah, we are, but we kind of do know what we're talking about as well, other than Bob. But we do let him hang around because he's
just starting into the bold takes, and we're not even like 2 minutes into the stream yet.
Other than Bob, I mean, that's not a bold take. That's just my everyday feeling. I've been trying to fire that guy for months, but he just keeps showing up. All due respect, he's also the only one of the 7 of us that's played any pro hockey, so we do like to listen to his advice. I just, I like to think what makes heavy hockey, different is that, it kind of feels like a fans podcast, but we do know what we're talking about. We're passionate, but, we're not just firing into the void. We're trying to dissect everything and see what, makes sense to the fan from a fan. So.
Awesome, absolutely, yeah. And we're trying to give you the best analysis we possibly can, and we've got a great group of really good hockey minds here. So, having said that,
And
let's
Patrick.
dig the F in. Patrick, let's get the rundown from you here.
What a bunch of good-looking guys there. All right. Well, let's start with the first rundown of the Heavy Hockey Podcast. It's been, a very frustrating last little while here for our Edmonton Oilers. They keep getting leads, and they keep giving them up. We're starting to have to settle for points in overtime, which really isn't too much fun. So hopefully with the 3-day break here going into next Saturday against the Colorado Avalanche, the Oilers can work on some things in practice, get some things going. As for what's been going on lately, Alec Regula, as we heard, was activated, got to play last night. I thought he looked pretty damn good for a guy that's been out for a while, and hopefully he can stay healthy here. Took a couple big hits from Evander Kane against Vancouver that knocked him out for a little bit longer than we all thought. So great to have him back. With the potential return of Zach Hyman on the horizon here, last I heard from Oilers insider Bob Stauffer that Monday against the Columbus Blue Jackets was the most likely day, but I guess anything in between there is also a possibility as well. With Zach Hyman coming back, the Oilers are going to have to make some roster moves to get cap compliant here. Some of the moves that were talked about are on the blue line, possibly a Ty Emerson, more likely a Troy Stetcher is probably headed out of town here for the Oilers. Carolina Hurricanes have been mentioned as a team that is looking for veteran NHL-ready defensemen with the injuries that they're facing, so that's a possibility there for Troy Stetcher. Boyke was assigned to the Fort Wayne Comets today, which didn't make too many people happy about that one, so we'll have to discuss that one today. And Andy Slagert hired as the new director of amateur recruitment for the Edmonton Oilers here, joining the hockey operations department from Notre Dame Hockey. A fantastic hire there, something that will help the Oilers continue to be competitive with not as many draft picks here in the future. So that's basically the latest here in oil country. So should be an exciting next couple days here.
Yeah, absolutely. With all the players coming back healthy, especially Hyman, that we're going to see some action on the roster here. So we'll have a chance to touch more on Akey and Slagert a little later on in the show. But the question I want to pose to the group, based on all the latest news that has come out, is how are the Oilers going to manage their roster as players return to health here? I'm going to cue this up by saying that if we put Kapanen and Janmark onto LTIR, that'll basically cancel out the LTIR relief from Hyman. It'll be like just a little bit less, like 50K less. So from that standpoint, the team is fine, but they're already at 23 players on the active roster. So somebody has to go down to activate Hyman. And then obviously 2 more players will have to go down when Kapanen and Janmark are healthy. And currently, I mean, we're at $2,824,166 over the cap. So those 3 players that are eventually going to have to get sent down or otherwise moved off the roster have to add up to at least that amount. So, gentlemen, who's getting moved off the roster? And bonus question, who's going first?
Okay, 1 second here. I just Mike and Jock were my ride, so I gotta take off here. I'll see you guys in the chat though. I'll monitor the chat with some stranger.
Perfect.
Oh, it's a good thing he did that. We'd already been trying to cut his feed. Oof.
Yeah, where's the big hook when we need it, right?
Bonus. Where's the dancing clown?
First episode, we already got people quitting.
Yeah, right. Like just not even 10 minutes in. Just see ya.
Didn't think it was that bad, was it? But
Hey,
okay, who's leaving? Who's leaving the roster first?
Just like the Oilers, Bob the goalie can only play 15 minutes.
Wow, just throwing the shade already. I think that Stetcher is not long for this world, and I don't think that one of Tomasek or Ike Howard is long for this world either. Tomasek's been scratched a couple of times, and even when they're bringing him back, he's still not really showing. So I'd really like to get him some time in Baco to run, 15, 20 minutes a night and get him some cycles and get him feeling it again. He was really good to start the season off, but he's definitely struggled a little bit more as the season's worn on, and the Oilers' confidence has struggled, in lockstep to an extent. So I think those are your 2 big roster moves.
No thoughts on Curtis Lazar, Because he's been really out of the lineup too for hitting waivers, maybe.
Yeah, I think he'll hit waivers. I had heard that they were trying to move him to a willing participant for like literally anything. But
sorry, did you say Lazar or Frederick, Kevin?
No, I said Lazar. That Frederick contract's not going anywhere, and you know it.
They have the same amount of points. I'm just saying. Sorry,
does Frederick even have a goal?
Yeah, 1.
Oh, okay.
He's on pace for 46 over 8 years.
Okay, in fairness to Frederick, and we're probably going to get to this later anyways, but I do think that we need to cut him some slack. I said this on Low Tide show earlier. Like, Leon wasn't right for a full year after his high ankle sprain. Like, he was not right for that entire season. And I don't think Frederick is quite of Leon caliber, and Leon was still managing to get it done. But I think we just need to have a little bit more patience with him before we start throwing the baby out with the bathwater, if you know what I mean.
Look, I am happy for you and I to have our ADD railroad this conversation into Frederick right now. I know full well that Ryan wants to keep us on task and probably get us a proper answer about roster management. So up to Ryan here. You can let us run down this path, or you can bring us on task.
No, well, we're gonna bring you guys back into the ring here, get you back on track. So Dash, while you've got the floor here, what do you think? Who's going first? Who's going to be the other ones to get moved off the roster, if not Frederick?
I apologize. Like normal, I was only half listening to you. Do you want me to tell you what I think's going to happen or what I think should happen?
I'll leave that up to you.
What I think should happen would be probably Tomaszek. I think he started early. He did well. The job that he did well is soon to be replaced by Zach Hyman. It'll be Hyman's job to lose once that's there. I wouldn't say we're getting, especially when you see the comparative of Roslovic and some of the other additions. Ike Howard as probably who will go down, but I would probably send Tomaszek down.
I think both of
And
them are
then-
going to get shipped. At
Yeah,
some point.
they're both in the mix here. But who
Yeah.
else do you think is going to go down though, Dash? There's got to be 3.
It might be a trade. Yeah, I don't know. I just
That's another possibility.
it's either the Lazar or the nice landing spot, soft landing spot for Stetcher, which is just a weird way to put. I don't know. What are we wrapping him with bubble wrap and throwing him?
No, we're doing him a favor is what we're doing. He's been a good soldier, and we're not just throwing him onto the waiver wire for, insert bottom dwelling
Philadelphia to pick up.
Calgary to pick up, right? Like,
yeah, similar to what Utah did with Connor Ingram, right?
yeah.
Let's just eat half his salary, make sure he's got all the opportunity in the world. He deserves it. I think it's those two and then a trade. Lots.
All right, fair enough. And Patrick, what do you think?
Yeah, I think they're gonna. Troy Stetcher's definitely gone. I think one way or another, because they're not going. These aren't trades that are going to be really super hard to figure out. They're going to be low draft pick or future considerations or something like that. It's just basically finding the team that wants to take them. So they're not going to be too hard of a trade to figure out. I'd prefer, as Kevin mentioned, they're trading Curtis Lazar if they can do that, because probably at this point he doesn't want to be going to the American Hockey League. I think he's not an all-star or anything, but he's certainly good enough to be on somebody's fourth line. It's just doesn't going to work here. It doesn't look like. So hopefully they can find a trade for Lazar. And then, yeah, I'd probably agree with the group here. It's probably Ike Howard and Tomaszek going down, just because Ike Howard is the easiest. Doesn't have to go on waivers or anything like that. So those are the moves that make the most sense. I'd like, personally, you guys know I'm a big Ike Howard fan, if we can find a way to keep him on the roster. But if he's not going to get more playing time or anything like that, or be trusted, he might as well go play more minutes in Bakersfield.
Yeah, 100%. And the reason I wanted to bring up the numbers at the beginning of this conversation is because the math is real, right? The value of the 3 guys has to add up to 2.8 million or a little over. And it works out to approximately 930K, somewhere in there, right? So it can't just be the cheapest guys on the roster that go. It can't just be Stetcher and Lazar. Someone more expensive's got to go as well. So to Dash's point, another possibility is Janmark himself being one of the ones that gets traded. At 1.45 million, he knocks out a big chunk of that 2.8. And if he goes, then it becomes easier to move somebody like a Lazar or a Stetcher out and keep everybody else, like your Howards and your Tomaszeks, up here and experimenting and developing. But I have a strange feeling that Howard's probably going to go down. And to Dash's point on Tomaszek, net front, I mean, Roslovic might even take it from Hyman because he's playing so well right there right now. But Tomaszek's third in line for that position, as I can see it. He's getting the least amount of 5-on-5 ice time on the team, and he's not doing much with it. So it might be a failed experiment, and it could end a little quicker than we all might have hoped. But regardless, 3 guys have to go down or be traded or moved off the roster somehow, some way. But like I say, in the immediate term, I think Kapanen and Janmark go on to LTIR, and probably Howard goes down. That's probably the way it's going to go first, and that buys them a little bit more time to make a decision once Janmark and Kapanen come back. So
Kapanen was a fairly significant injury, wasn't it? They say like 4 to 6 weeks for him.
For Kapanen, yeah, it was like, so I heard around 6 weeks originally, and I think we're
Smashed
2
his
into
knee,
it.
I think. Yeah. No, he'll
Yeah,
end up on
yeah.
Alter for sure, just because he's 1.2 or whatever he is.
Yeah, and then we know Janmark has been out since the beginning of the regular season, so he can go on LTIR, and then he could be activated at any point because he's been out for longer than 24 days and 10 games. So that could just be a little paper transaction, so to speak, to make the numbers work in the short term. So moving on to a new segment that we've got for you guys. This one is Game Stories. The most important thing that happened over the last couple of games, Connor McDavid recorded his 1100th point against the Blues. Feels like old news now because he's already at 1103. He's got 4 points his last 2 games, but he was the 4th fastest player to ever do it behind Gretzky, Lemieux, and Mike Bossy. It's a pretty impressive accomplishment for McDavid. None of us are surprised at it, though, at this point, because he's just that good. As far as the games themselves, the biggest stories that come out of the games, the blown leads. They're up 2-0 in the second period against the Blues in St. Louis, and the Blues had tied it before the end of the second period, and they won it in regulation. And then the next night in Dallas, they were up 2-0 and then 3-1 with 12:09 left in the third, and they went on to lose in the shootout. And that was their 4th multi-goal lead that they've blown, which is the most in the NHL so far. So, gentlemen, the question I'm putting to you is, why are the Oilers blowing these leads? Let's start with Dash.
I think that's a loaded question. I think that it's obviously a combination of things. Mistakes being a key one. I think if we're going to talk about mistakes, then it's compounding mistakes. It really seems like when the Oilers make one, then somebody else makes one, then somebody else makes one. It's in the back of your net. I believe that there's a conversation to be had around structure and systems versus deployment. There's a gap there. Whether that is Knoblauch not knowing how to deploy the skills he has, whether he doesn't trust the youth to do it, whether he's willing to have everybody learn the slow way. I feel like he has some sort of like 2000s Devils mentality that he's trying to apply to the 2025 Oilers, which is, a mismatch in potentially what Knoblauch wants for system and structure versus what the skill set of this team and what it's built around, which is speed and mismatches and organized chaos. Do we have the proper personnel to be at the end of games? Like, why is Bouchard out there with 90 seconds left? So is it coaching? Is it lack of proper personnel? Is it not having our heads put on straight? Is it too many mistakes? I don't know. Start throwing check marks at all of them, probably.
Well, I mean, if you look at the one last night, the goal against was a mistake by Wallman, a mistake by Nuge, and a mistake arguably by Skinner. I mean, we can debate that puck came off the back wall real fast and that he didn't get across. But man, I am sick of seeing Stuart Skinner like 35 feet from where he's supposed to be or where he needs to be to stop the puck, right? Like, he is a goalie that is absolutely under siege right now from the fan base, and some of it is warranted, some of it is not. Last night he was more than a goal saved above expected, and in my view, the only thing that he could have done differently was been in a slightly better position on the third goal against.
Well, yeah, I agree. A little bit going in. We got a lot of our regulars. This is awesome. The chat's just on fire here. It's got a life of its own. Let me just do some shout outs. Russ Jericho from across the pond. Norman at Combine. Ace. Good to see all you guys. Sure some strangers on there too. They're saying it's bad coaching. Definitely bad coaching. No timeouts. Maybe another hot take here, and again, I don't want to get off topic, but like, at what point in time is the Oilers going to employ a coach that makes his own decisions instead of listening to the team? Because, from all due accounts, and the players decide when the timeouts are called, and the players decide when they want to go nuclear, and there's a trend from every coach that they've always gone to the nuclear option. Well, why do you think that is? Because they want to play together.
Yeah, there definitely is some repeating themes that come out across when you look at it across multiple coaches that make you scratch your head a little bit. And um, I agree to an extent. I just think that everybody's kind of out of form a little bit. I do think that the Knobloch is dealing with a fairly significant refresh of his coaching staff too, which throws in its own wrenches into the equation.
Mhm.
I think Paul Coffey's presence has missed quite a bit more than I think anybody really wants to give him credit for. And you know,
Deployment.
yeah, I think it's more than just deployment. I think it's messaging between um, he was tied into the senior leadership of the organization, and that's well known. So for him to uh, to liaise between the leadership of the organization and the coaching was a value add in its own way because he knew how to negotiate both sides.
Yeah, I mean Patrick deserves his shot at this answer too, but
Uh-oh. Yeah.
ultimately, I do think there's some coaching issues. I do think there's some personnel and deployment issues where there's a mismatch. But at the end of the day, this team is awful at recognizing who to pick up, who to box out, which rebound to control when an unexpected transition happens. And not only are they awful at recognizing it. Is that a coaching thing? Is that why are 3 Oilers coming back all picking up the wrong guy, or 2 of them being lazy? Like, I don't know. Is it coaching? Is it motivation? Is it player motivation? Is it players not being able to recognize assignments? I honestly don't get it. Sorry, but Patrick, go ahead. Like, what?
Well, yeah, I don't have much different to add than what we've already kind of covered here, but yeah, I think it's just a mix of everything. It seems like the team overall isn't playing very well. There's some individual guys that are kind of scoring the goals, but it seems after we score those goals, our weaknesses and the bad play is getting exposed almost right away. And one mistake leads to another mistake. It's just like quicksand. They try and cover up for the thing. And then when they're trying to cover up for one mistake, they're busy making another one. And it's right from the top to the bottom. Like, we have not seen a great year, despite the fact that he just got his record there. Connor McDavid has not been Connor McDavid this year. Leon Draisaitl has been fairly consistent, but it's been no one particular player. I know Evan Bouchard's been singled out a lot. I thought last game was a bit better for him, but there's just so many things wrong. Like, we've got a lot of new players, new coaching staff, like everything you guys have kind of covered here already. Like I said, I don't have much new to add, but it's no one factor you can say like, oh, we'll fix that and everything's going to be fine. They got a lot of things to work on. So I think this 3-day break couldn't come at a better time. This team's got a lot to work on in practice. They got to get some fundamentals down, positioning, you name it. And hopefully we see a much better structured team against Colorado on Saturday.
Let me give Lotzi an absolutely pro segue here, because I know he's coming up, wants to talk about this week on Heavy Hockey, and we'll transition into some of those things. But look, this leads to what Lotzi's articles were all about. It's Knobloch's lack of trust in youth. It's how Lotzi has referred to the deployment of McDavid and Draisaitl and proved that the more you have them on the ice together, the less the team scores. Which is a crazy sentence to say out loud. And
it seems backwards for sure.
Right? Like this deployment of the PK that you and I might debate about, Lotzi, and I'm still not even sure that you haven't convinced me that you're right at this point, to be honest. But these blown leads, which is what we're talking about ultimately, it's not bad luck. It's mechanical failure. Like when the D loses gap control and the forwards stop supporting low, you get extended zone time. Like it's just like there's so many mismatches and so much that's happening in the moments during these last few minutes in the last 3 periods. Like, guys, in the last 2 third periods, they have held the other team in those 40 minutes to 9 shots, and they give up 3 goals.
And that kind of leads me into what I was going to say about all this, which the team is generally playing fairly decent defense, aside from the odd major gaff that ends up in the back of the net. Right. So maybe it is systemic breakdowns and maybe it's a sign of deeper issues. But as for why it's happening at the end of games, specifically when we have 2-0 leads lately, I think that's just mental. Like the boys just have to bear down and buckle in and get the job done. And they're not doing it right now. This team has shown that they can hold the leads and even come back when they're down in the past, right? But as you said, there's a lot of turnover on this team, not only behind the bench, but on the ice too. We got 7 new forwards this year that are regulars in the lineup. So it's not quite the same group it used to be. There's some kinks that are being ironed out here still. But ultimately, I think that when we get into a little trend like this, it's mental. It always is. It's hockey, right? There's going to be the other team's going to get chances. There's going to be some back and forths and give and take. You're going to make mistakes. They're going to make good plays. It's just when are those chances happening and how are they impacting the team? Well, it just sucks that it's just leading to losses right now. But I think it'll sort itself out over time as the team becomes more cohesive and some of these holes get figured out.
I got one side good piece of news if we want to stop ragging on everybody for just 30 seconds, and that is that Samuel Johnson just got his 3rd consecutive shutout for the Fort Wayne Comets. He's at like 186 minutes of shutout time now.
Wow.
So I think the faster they consider getting him to the AHL to get some reps in the AHL, the better. That he's clearly a goalie, and we clearly need to see what we got there.
That's why they sent Blakey down, was to protect that record.
No, yeah.
See, I'm thinking the opposite thing. I'm like, let the kid cook, let him develop.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
We have Connor Ingram that we need to get up and going in Bakersfield right now too, and that leads me to another question I wanted to ask in this general realm in this conversation is goaltending, right? A lot of people are putting the blame on Skinner and Picard because of some instances of because of the things that they could be doing better at the end of the game. And it's clear that Pickard has struggled, right? He has. He's not done what he did last year or the year before even, which is unfortunate. But let's dive into Skinner's play a little bit. And I'm going to throw some numbers at you. And I'm going to see if I can change your opinions at all here. So these are from Money Puck. Skinner in 24-25 among goalies that played at least 38 games, which is 34 qualifying goaltenders. I'm trying to come at this from there's 32 starting goaltenders in the NHL, and I'm looking at a sample of 34. So among those goalies last year, he was 26th in goals against average above expected and 27th in goals saved above expected per 60. 25th in save percentage, 13th in goals against average, and 27th in wins above replacement. So near the bottom in all but one category. This year, among goalies with at least 7 games played, so about half their team's games, and I got a sample of 33 guys here, Skinner is 15th in both goals against above expected and goals saved above expected per 60. 20th in save percentage, 10th in goals against, 14th in wins above replacement. So he's improved in every single one of those categories. So we're looking at a lot of the raw numbers and saying we need better. He's the same guy, and we're getting some same results here. But I'm looking at those numbers and I'm thinking, how is this not an improvement?
Okay, what about Pickard? And I know that
He's near the bottom.
Pickard is
Sorry, Russ, but
I know Pickard is loved around here, and for good reason from a room perspective. I know the team is hesitant to make any changes there, but overall, once you average out the two, I think we're running a pretty lean goaltending build at the money, and that makes sense given how much we spend on goaltending. But I do think that there is opportunity for a third goaltender to push into the mix and at least challenge the other two to play better. And that's not to say to replace either of them. That's just to put some healthy competition into the mix.
So, I mean, it's a small sample size, like Klima's Lid is pointing out in the chat here. But do we think that Peter Aubrey's having any sort of impact at all yet? Or do we need to give that a little bit more time to sort itself out? What do you think, Patrick?
I think that needs more time. Like, that's not barely any, like, we're not even a quarter, well, pretty close to but I mean, it's got to have more time. We've had, like I was saying earlier, for working on everything, we need practice time. Like, he's basically getting like morning skates and stuff to work with these guys, and that's not nearly enough time to make a huge fundamental difference. So, yeah, I think the goaltending coach needs more time. And to your point, and Russ pointing out in the chat there, 2.6 and 1 million for our goaltending. We're getting pretty damn good value for $3.6 million spent on goaltending. And I don't think goaltending has really been the issue at all for this team. It's hanging on to the lead. This team should be way further up in the standings right now with the positions that they've been put in to win in these hockey games. So, yes, at some point here, I don't think Calvin Pickard is probably going beyond this season with his team. He's probably, I think odds are, going to retire after this season. So the Oilers have to be looking for that next goaltender. And I think we all are leaning towards Connor Ingram being that guy, but he's certainly got some things to figure out down in Bakersfield first. So there's no immediate solution there. So we might as well stick with Skinner and Pickard for right now. Both guys can be a little bit better. Skinner has started to trend in that direction for sure, but ultimately everyone still needs more time here.
Can I be the guy that says that it really gives me hives every time Skinner has to take a shootout? Like, legitimately, it legitimately gives me hives every, like, I wasn't joking when I tweeted out put Pickard in net for the shootout.
Or Mike Morrison, whatever.
Yeah, put Connor in net for the shootout. Like, it's really frustrating. It's really frustrating to watch this team. Yes, they took it to OT and they couldn't get it done in OT, and we can argue and debate about that. But this team really kind of stinks in shootouts. And I know that that's a total gimmick and yada, yada, yada. But it would be really nice to not just be like, either this is hitting the post, the backsplash, or it's going in the net, right? Like, that's kind of the logic process it feels like right now. And I'm not sure why that is.
I think the whole team's bad at shootouts.
That's what I mean. This team is horrible at shootouts, period. Yeah. Like,
look, we have what we have in Stuart Skinner. We know what we have in Stuart Skinner. Stuart Skinner's been Stuart Skinner since I saw him play AAA midget. He's streaky. He's inconsistent. He's hot when he's hot. He's not when he's not. He generally plays to the level of the team in front of him. That was evident in the WHL when he started on a poor team, got traded to a good team, and things improved. That pattern repeated itself in the AHL as the Condors improved, and it's happened in the NHL. He's become a better goalie as the team has improved, but I think what we're maybe probably understanding after this happening, here we are again. Yeah, we're talking about it again. Same as last year, probably the same as the year before that. Really, I think this goes back to this whole mismatch theme in how we play versus the personnel we have. That doesn't make Skinner a bad goalie. But he's probably a bad goalie for a team that plays inconsistently, because he plays to the level of that team and he's inconsistent himself. So it starts to exponentiate or, just make things worse or compound things. And ultimately he's not the type of goalie that's ever going to steal you games. I can think of maybe 2 a year, and he's already checked that box versus New York this year. So how many does he have left? We're a team that does not, as I just finished talking about, we're a team that does not react well to unexpected transition. We're a team that doesn't react well to giving up high danger chances. And he happens to be a goalie that is not very good against 2-on-1s and odd man rushes and plays where he has to move laterally. It doesn't make Skinner a bad goalie. He's got that flaw. Every goalie outside of the top 5 in the world have a flaw. Just that flaw sucks for this team. And you know, just like Bouchard's flaw sucks for this team. Right? This core has this half-assed attitude to self-load manage and play 40 minutes a game and just make the playoffs. Fine, go do it. You've learned how to win. Good on you. But you look like assholes in the meantime because Bouchard's errors look huge when they're errors. And then it makes Skinner exposed and then he makes huge errors and the team looks like a bunch of a-holes. There's nothing wrong with Skinner. It's just not a good fit right now, Lotzi.
That just seems like when it rains, it pours, right? And I like that thought. And the two flaws just kind of compound each other and leads to trouble. So one more thought I had from the last few games that's kind of emerged from that, and that is the new look top 6. We finally got some consistency in the lines after a whole bunch of line juggling from Knobloch early in the season. So the first line, we've got Nugent Hopkins, McDavid, and Mangiapane, who each they've scored 2 beautiful 3-way passing play goals in the last couple of games. So they look like they're starting to get some chemistry. And on the second line, we got Podkolzin with Draisaitl and Jack Roslovic, who is on fire right now. 5 points his last 4 games. So my question is, do we think this top 6 is good enough as is right now?
Well, it's about to get a big piece added to it.
I would like to go into the playoffs though, where we don't
Is it?
have to rely on Zach Hyman being the thing that keeps this team afloat, right? Like,
Yeah, no, it needs more depth.
No guarantees he goes straight into the top 6 is my smart ass comment there, Patrick. But is the top 6 good enough right now? Yeah, it probably is. Good enough for what? Lotzi?
I mean, to win, but I guess my next question is going to be, where is he going to fit into, or is Hyman going to fit into the lineup when he comes back? And so I guess we should just answer that one right now too. Is it going to be in the top 6? Is that an automatic? Or does he get some time to ramp his game up on the third line? And if he's not, or if he does go into the top 6, who comes out of the top 6?
I don't think we.
Mangiapane.
Yeah.
Mangiapane, a quick answer.
Yeah.
I actually think
Might be
Nuge.
Nuge.
I think Nuge goes play
Okay.
3C, and you end up with Mangiapane and Hyman as McDavid's wingers.
I'm with Kevin on that. Yeah, I think
I
that's
see it.
the way it
So I
goes.
just
as well.
love that.
Well-
I just don't. The reason I say that is just because Mangiapane and Hyman are so similar in terms of their archetype. Like they're the not huge guys, but they'll work and dig pucks out for you. Like Mangiapane is probably Hyman light in that regard. So like in an ideal world, in my mind, they're on separate lines.
Yeah, maybe.
And I see where you're going with having the 3-headed monster up the middle by moving Nuge to 3C, and that's a very valid setup. But
Hard to argue
I
with
think-
what Nuge is doing right now, but he's generally a more valuable player when he's driving his own line or at least centering his own line. Maybe driving's the wrong term there, but I think we've also heard Knobloch say time and time again that he prefers Nuge at center. So that's kind of where my nudge towards that decision goes.
Put Nuge in his 3C, give him Matt Savoy, and give him somebody else with some skill, and let them go to work. Like, Nuge is a perfect mentor for a guy like Savoy. Nuge is kind of a bit more of a playmaker, and Savoy is a bit more of a crowbar. And given the Roslovic Podkolzin success with Draisaitl, there's clearly not any space for Savoy on Leon's wings. So, at least you get him with some skill and get him some minutes with somebody who knows what the hell they're doing.
Well, Lotzi, you said is the top 6 good enough, and where's Hyman going to go? The top 6 is good enough, but what this does when Hyman comes back is it makes the bottom 6 better.
Yeah,
and I think that's maybe more the key point. Where's Hyman go? Yeah. I mean, like obviously the players coach this team, so Hyman's going right back to McDavid's wing, and he'll get that opportunity unless there's something we don't know, and he needs to be eased back in, or there's a setback, or something's going on at game speed, and he needs to drop to a third line role. But I'm with Kevin. we need to stop relying on him to save the team. Not that the team needs saving, you guys. Like we're in second or third place.
No, but there was a meaningful difference between the Oilers versus Dallas and Oilers versus Florida sans Zach Hyman. Like material difference in how those teams played hockey.
I mean, he was setting NHL records for hits, Kevin. Like how can you not be right there?
Yep.
Like
No, absolutely.
He's the type
there was that, and then there was the reinsertion of Ekholm into the lineup, which materially changed the defensive composition after they had sort of worked out how to be without Ekholm. That's not a slight against Ekholm in the slightest. He was clearly injured at the end of last season, and they brought him back anyways. And I think it more importantly just messed with the mechanics and the chemistry of the defensive pairings than anything that really Ekholm himself did.
Well, yeah, Game 6, first and second goal is probably your
yeah. I mean, Bouchard was clearly banged up by that point too, right? Like he was making not even Bouchard type of mistakes. They were like obvious, like injury or some kind of injury related.
Right. Well, and back to your point on Hyman, and that's what this question is supposed to be about. He's the type of guy that drags the team into a fight, right? And that is missing from this team right now in its current form. It's pretty damn clear. We talked about it several times. Michael, dragged his soapbox into the podcast and screamed it from the top of it some days that, we were 6-1 or 7-1 in games where we fought last year in the first 25 games going in or something like that. Like it showed that the team had to be dragged in, and right from the days back to Matt Hendricks, Tyson Barrie, the vibe daddy. This team's always needed some sort of emotional leader, some sort of catalyst or glue guy in the dressing room to get him going, right? Connor Brown, Vander Kane, Corey Perry. We've seen versions of it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I think Patrick, you probably once again got cut off by us ADD monsters and didn't get your chance to talk about Hyman here. But
well, you bring up Corey Perry. He's a guy I think this team's really missing in the dressing room, and he's another guy I think like Hyman that could get them going at times when they're not clicking on all cylinders right now. But yeah, that's all I have to really add on that. Besides, you guys already covered. But yeah.
This team misses I'm going to use a player that we still have available to us, but not in the NHL. This team needs a Clattenburg, right? That's what's missing from this team is a Clattenburg archetype player that plays pretty mean and dirty hockey and is not afraid to ruffle some feathers and really like. And I'm not saying that Clattenburg is ready for NHL primetime yet, not even close. But that is a type of player that we should be putting in our bottom 6 yet this year, in my view.
And I've been kind of feeling like there's a sort of malaise over the team right now. Like that emotion is missing. So whether it's not having Barry the Worm in the game, not having Kaner throwing hits and getting in people's heads, right? Hyman doing what he does, just being hard on the body all game. That all of it matters, but Hyman didn't start really doing that until the playoffs last year. This team was kind of intentionally not being physical throughout the regular season last year. But I know Patrick and I were pretty quick to say Mangiapane to the bottom 6. That's where I think he helps this team the most, I think, is by giving us some added depth. I don't see Mangiapane as a legit top 6 player. I don't see him as a suitable winger for McDavid or Draisaitl just based on quality. I think he can moonlight up there as he's been doing. He's been fine. He's got 4 goals, I believe, so far. Like he's been fine. I just think long term he'll help this team a bit more by making it deeper on a third line. That's kind of where my mind is at there.
Uh-oh. Bob snuck into the chat there. That's not good.
Uh-oh. Security.
I want to briefly touch on Rediscovery's comment here, and that is simple by having a bigger hockey brain.
And a bigger
Regula-
body and a better skater.
I don't know. I don't know about better skater. If there's any complaint I have about Regula, it is that his skating is not the best, in my opinion, and that could be just residual from his injury, still working through that. But I think Stetcher is a 112% heart kind of guy all the time. The kid has the absolute heart of a lion and compete for days and days and days at a time. But I think that Regula thinks the game better. I think he's a better passer, and watching him break out has been nothing short of like a revelation for basically every game that he's played, aside from the game that Kane cleaned his clock twice, right? Like, I think that breakout ability is huge to this organization. And to Ace 96's point, yeah, Stetcher has struggled a little bit this year, more than he was last year. I think Regula is easily top 6. I think if he continues to improve, he's got top 4 upside in the long run. I honestly think there's a very good chance that he ends up being Nurse's partner for the foreseeable future. Because he thinks the game well. He doesn't panic when he has the puck. He makes clean, smart decisions when he's breaking out. And if he can figure out his foot speed and some of the, just learning curve stuff, I think he's going to be a pretty serious add to this org for next to nothing. So I think that's an excellent get for this team.
I appreciate what you're saying about Regula's skating, but with all due respect to Troy Stetcher, he skates like wacky waving and inflatable arm flailing tube man. It like is one of the most unorthodox skating styles I've ever seen in my life. But
yep, fair enough.
I digress.
Regula is a big guy, and his foot speed's always going to be a little slower on a big guy like that. But you're right; he thinks the game well, makes really intelligent passes. So I think he's got some staying power for sure.
The tell to me is that the org is already using him for advanced breakouts, which they would not normally be using a defenseman of his experience level quite that heavily yet. But he's doing some of the mid-ice breakouts and some of the bumper passes and whatnot already. And that tells me that they have plans for him, because he's already being used for systems that are beyond a simple breakout pass.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I know that in the preseason for sure they had him at the blue line for one breakout, right? So that was definitely a sign of all that. So yeah, Regula is definitely a big get, and hopefully he can be a piece for the Oilers going forward. With that, we're going to move on to another new segment for us. So we've got a lot of written content over at Heavy Hockey Network, and we're going to highlight it a little bit on this show with this piece with the segment that we are calling This Week in Heavy Hockey. So I don't think we got that video up. That's okay. We'll just dive straight into it. So talking a little bit about what Dash alluded to earlier, I wrote a bunch of pieces on Knobloch's forward deployment. I started off on focusing on the over-reliance on McDavid and Draisaitl. I did a piece about whether they should be together or not. And my conclusion there was based on how well they've played together so far and how well Nugent Hopkins is playing so far, which is important because you need to have a second line if you're going to stack the big guys. I say yes, do it. And it's pretty clear that he's giving them a lot more ice time than normal. Last year was the only year where they got more 5-on-5 ice time than they're getting this year. And they're also killing penalties. That's the other big thing. So I think, it's one thing to just ride your superstars, but you do it to the level that it's happening right now because you don't think your roster is good enough to compete. So I think there's a lot of new pieces on this team right now. We have 7 new forwards that weren't on the team in June. 4 of the team's 7 most efficient goal scorers on a goals per 60 basis left the team this summer, and they were replaced with Mangiapane, Roslovic, and Magic Beans and Pixie Dust. So it hasn't been adequately replaced. So I don't think we should be surprised that the team is struggling to score some goals here, and we shouldn't be surprised that Knobloch is riding McDavid and Draisaitl as hard as he is right now. The other piece that I did that went along with this is it was a deep dive. Does Knobloch hate young players? Because I think that's a common refrain we've seen based on how little ice time that Ike Howard's getting and how little that Matt Savoy is getting. So I went back and I looked at how Knobloch deployed Dylan Holloway. I looked back to see how Kyler Yamamoto was deployed by Dave Tippett. And I looked back to see how Jesse Puljujarvi was deployed. And it was Hitchcock and McClellan. So I went back to that era. And I also looked at some other playoff teams from last season that are breaking rookies into their lineups this season to compare ice time there. And the big one for me was Demidov in Montreal. Savoy is getting more 5-on-5 ice time than Ivan Demidov. Right, Demidov's doing what he's doing on the power play mostly, but he's actually getting less ice time than Matty Savoy. And Easton Cowan from the Leafs is another comparable that I drew. Drafted a year later, he's getting his chance now. A little bit more average ice time per game, more looks in the top 6, but he's played in fewer games. But average ice time is actually pretty comparable because if he's not in the top 6, he's getting less than 10 minutes a night. So all of that tells me that I don't think that the usage of Savoy and Howard is really that egregious. I think it's pretty normal to see a guy get Savoy's ice time in his first year. And Howard's maybe a little on the low side, but I think there's some hints that suggest he needs a little AHL time. So I don't think this is horrible use of the kids by Knobloch. I don't think it's a sign that he hates the kids, but other people might disagree with me. So there's a lot to unpack in there. We'll get to that in a little bit, but just to highlight some of the other articles that are on Heavy Hockey right now, which you can find using this QR code. Fun. We've got a piece on Slaggert being hired and how that's a progressive move by Jackson because very few teams have been employing people that are strictly focused on recruitment. The Oilers are the 5th team to kind of have somebody in that specific role. Otherwise, it's usually just left up to the scouts. And so you can read more about that on Heavy Hockey. We've got Bob the goalie coming at us with his NHL power rankings. He does it in 10-game segments, and he's based it on the strength of schedule and how well the teams played in that 10-game segment. And we also have a super important piece about abuse and misogyny in the NHL by an unidentified HHN staff writer. And so there's a really good, insightful, important read about all the terrible instances of assaults that have been happening with NHL players in the past few years, and we're seeing more of them come to light now. I mean, it's good that the spotlight's getting shone on it, which I hope will help future instances of this stop. But it sucks that all this has happened, and most importantly, the powers that be are being mostly silent about it. So check that out on Heavy Hockey as well. But a couple of questions I wanted to focus on with you guys about all of the articles from the week here. First one, Dash alluded to it earlier. Should McDavid and Draisaitl be killing penalties? It's clear that Knobloch has been riding them pretty hard, but that's the one that's driving their ice time up, and that's the one that I think needs to stop. But I know Dash disagrees with me.
I disagree with you on why the deployment is happening. I don't disagree with you on the theory and the premise. Let me just be clear. I do not want McDavid or Draisaitl killing penalties. The fact that they are killing penalties and still killing penalties, and if I was Coach Knobloch, they probably would be killing penalties. And it's because they're perfect. They haven't let up a goal yet. Everybody thought they'd be put there to be reaching for offense and trying to stretch things into shorthanded goals, and all they've done is not had a single solitary power play goal against while on the ice. Well, I'm sorry, but as a coach, that's pretty tough to not go back to, Lotzie. And I guess that was my point. And this is all a little bit derived from a private conversation from our Heavy Hockey thread. So here we are bringing it to life, right? Do I agree with it? No, I don't want them blocking shots and I don't want them breaking their hands like Nuge did a few years ago. But I also think that the coach can develop a system to ensure that they're boxing people out in a proper way or using their speed on a penalty kill as opposed to, standing there like pylons. So
Does it materially change once the roster gets realigned here? Like if Janmark makes it back into the lineup and a few other guys, does that materially change the composition of the penalty kill at that point? Like, is it a stopgap measure or is it permanent? I guess is the question that I would ask.
honestly, Kevin, every bit of Ryan's articles, as well as what you're saying right now, screams to me the same thing. I'm going right back to now my soapbox. The personnel we are employing does not fit the system and the strategy of this coach or this coaching staff right now. And it's just causing these types of mismatches. Like if you take, this is this week on Heavy Hockey, which is, focusing on these articles. And what I got out of reading through Ryan's stuff was, I made a few notes. Ice time overload on Draisaitl and McDavid. And yeah, when your top two guys are on the ice more and you're scoring less, something's off. Doesn't mean they're the problem, but it means the system around them might be. You talked about high minutes and line shuffling and being at a loss of chemistry. Yeah, I mean, constant shuffling of lines means Oilers and rules aren't, or their roles, sorry, not Oilers, the rules aren't defined. They get, your loads are erratic, your ice times are erratic, structure collapses, you're trying to stick a square peg in a round hole again. The young talent not being deployed. Maybe Lotzi, next time you write an article on whether he hates young kids, you could leave room for an answer. Because you made it pretty definitive, right? They have players on this roster that thrive in speed and transition. Savoy, Kevin's been singing his praises every single time he's been on Al Mitchell and the Lowdown every Wednesday. I hear you talk about the crowbar on skates. He has the skill. Your boy Ike, Patrick, he can thrive in speed and transition. The coach isn't doing it.
I think
you're asking a fast and creative roster to play like they're defensive, and they're not.
I just want to throw one comment in about Ike Howard, and I made this comment on Low Tide Show earlier. I do think that he has things that he needs to work on significantly more than, like I think Savoy is an 80% player, and in terms of like overall NHL completeness, and I think that Ike Howard is kind of in the 50s, right? Like there is, when he doesn't have the puck, he doesn't know where to be, or at least not all the time, and it shows up on the defensive side of the game, and that's something that, from what we know about Chris Knobloch, is not going to go over well, right? So I think that it's quite reasonable to expect, for that reason alone, that Ike will go to the AHL for a while just to get some more seasoning and start rounding out that two-way game.
So you're saying he's playing like a 21-year-old with 15 games experience?
Exactly, but also thinking
and he picked the wrong number.
Yeah, but also thinking that he's like, that's
53.
Yeah. But he plays like somebody who came from college league without going through junior first, right? So
to Patrick's point, he plays like the other number 53, like two trailer park girls, round the outside.
It's funny, I quoted that exact song earlier.
You are my spirit animal.
Well, just what I would like to see. Like, it's we talk about the same things happening with all the coaches over the last 2, 3, 4 coaches the Oilers have had, and it's little things like finding different guys to play on the penalty kill. Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl have been doing a fantastic job, as you pointed out there, Dash, but you have to find more ways to integrate more of this lineup. Like,
that's why you have a fourth line.
Well, Derek Ryan.
Kill.
I know. Well, yeah, and like Derek Ryan used to bring it up, I think, when Dave Tippett was the coach, and I think that was one of the first things he pointed out when Jay Woodcroft took over. It's like, oh, it's nice to play some more and like feel like I'm included and I'm part of it. And like when the team's trailing and you feel like, well, Grace, I guess I'm spending most of the game on the bench here while McDavid and Draisaitl try to get this game tied up or whatever like that. I mean, when you're already using those guys the vast majority of the time when you're trying to catch up or something like that, let somebody else play on the penalty kill. There's got to be other guys. These are all NHL capable forwards here, except for Ike Howard, I guess. But he's getting.
Oh, come on.
I'm
50
just
50 rounds up. Come on, 50 rounds up. I didn't say 49.
I'm just teasing. But yeah, like you got to find more ways, and like these guys are going to get better if you give them more ice time and more of these opportunities to learn.
Well, I mean, on the flip side of that argument,
So-
we had
Putting McDavid and Draisaitl this team.
And we've lost a few penalty killers over the years for sure. And there's even guys that were killing penalties last year that aren't this year. Podkolzin being one of them, right? Kapanen, when he was healthy, he wasn't killing penalties. Like the rotation's been pretty small this year, and they're integrating a new system. Hasn't gone super well so far. And yeah, Kevin, I'm hoping that it is a stopgap solution, just because we do have guys that can do it. Like Frederick is probably capable. Like he didn't do it at all for us in the playoffs last year, but I feel like he's a guy that might be able to. Like Podkolzin can do it, right? Like there's other guys. So I think if you want Connor and Leon to be a little more effective 5-on-5, you want Connor to score more goals, let's get him on the ice a little less often when he doesn't need to be.
Yeah, and I agree with Dash's point about some of it being related to on ice results, right? Like I understand why the coach keeps going back to it, but they have to do a little bit of future planning as an org here. Connor is an absolute lock for the Olympics. Leon is an absolute lock for the Olympics. Like those guys are going to be gassed as hell by the time they get to May. If we keep playing them 24 minutes a night for the next 6 months, right? Like it's just the reality of playing a crap load of hockey.
How about that November schedule? Wink, wink.
Yeah, exactly. Good segue. All 20,000 kilometers of it. Yeah. Like that schedule is mental. If we get out of that with 50%, we're absolutely laughing. The schedule coming up this month is nothing short of horrendous, and it's honestly kind of shameful that that's what the league put together for this team, but it is what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to have more on that in just a little bit. One more question regarding the articles that I've kind of wrote, and we may have already kind of hit on this a little bit, but should the kids be getting more minutes? If so, how should Knobloch go about it? Because like I just don't see with this top six that we've got going here, I don't see how we get Howard more minutes, and I don't see how we get Savoy too many more minutes either. So Patrick, we'll start with you. I know you're a big Howard fan. How do we get the guy more minutes if he needs them?
Well, I don't think you put him on the penalty kill.
Yeah, that's probably not
He does attack the puck well. He also attacks skates really well too.
One thing I have noticed though, the second PP unit that he's been on quite regularly there has looked really good in the short stints that they've gotten, especially the games before Roslovic got on that first unit and they were really struggling. So that's I don't know if there was really no room on the first power play unit, but maybe giving the second power play unit some more time would be a way to do that. Maybe giving them, like we're going speed, maybe at the end of a penalty kill, try and get them on for that first shift after, or when you're trying to move the puck up the ice, get some speed going there. But ultimately, you have to try him in some top six duty. I'm not saying he's a full-time top six guy or anything like that, but give him a shift here or there. Like it doesn't, when you have, especially if you're trying to catch up here and Connor and Leon are playing more than normal, give them a shift off, let them have an opportunity there, see if they can get some fresh legs, a fresh look there. So there's little ways you can. I mean, you're not going to get a huge great deal of ice time for them that way, but more than what they're getting right now.
Got to find out what you have, don't you, Patrick?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
We're going to get to this trade deadline and, be looking for something. Oh, well, maybe we got it. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe we have it for less than $1 million, so we don't have to go and try and make space for a $4 million guy when we've got a $1 million guy that can do it.
a hotter take than that. Maybe we had it in Holloway and Broberg. Anyways.
When you have a guy or we have a team with two superstars like Connor and Leon, those guys are getting more 5-on-5 ice time than everybody else, right? So they're the ones getting the extra shifts here and there. They're going to take shifts with random wingers at times. And so that would be kind of the way to get Howard and Savoy a little more ice time, is to include them in that rotation of guys that are getting random shifts, rather than it's usually the most trusted. It's your Podkolzins, it's your Mangiapanes, it's those guys that have been getting those gravy shifts with Connor and Leon lately. But I think that's where you kind of see that ice time creep up slowly. So with that, I think we're going to move on to our next segment. There's one article I didn't talk about in my last little segment here very specifically, because we've got Call Me Crazy coming up with Dash.
Yeah, I mean, we're calling you crazy a lot tonight.
I'm so full of myself. Play that intro again. That was fun. All right.
It's shorter.
Way shorter and way less on my face. Yeah, I wrote an article. Yay for me. That's 1 out of every 100 that Lotzi writes that I have a pace on. I just started to see the anomaly in the schedule, and the more I started to break down, the more crazy I thought it was. It's something like, I don't know if the Oilers have ever seen a month like what's coming ever before. Like Kevin alluded to, almost 20,000 kilometers of travel. They have 14 games and 29 nights. 10 of those 14 games are on the road. 7 of those 10 games are across 2 time zones. They're playing the best of the best in the East. They're going from the state of New York down to Florida and Sunrise and all the way back up. They travel about 80,000 kilometers on average. I think it's being 85,000 this year. It's the number 1 travel team in the NHL. They travel 80 to 85 in a year, and 20,000 of that is going to be this upcoming month in November. So our editor, who might be on this podcast hosting right now, changed my title because it was maybe a little more harsh, and they had to get their shit together in November. Or it could be a nightmare, and it got changed. It's just November might be a nightmare. And I think there's a lot of reasons it could be. So I don't know. Let's maybe dive into it, but call me crazy. But if the Oilers don't get their shit together, November's going to be a nightmare, and we might not even make the playoffs or be in a position to make the playoffs or be in a hole that we might not be able to dig ourselves out of. Lotzi, call me crazy.
Would love to, Dash. I'm going to call you crazy here, just because I think you have to be in a pretty deep hole for this Oilers team to not be able to climb their way out of it. This team climbed their way out of 3-9-1 2 years ago, and it was not quite as bad of a start last year, but they climbed their way out of it as well. Big thing is, where are they going to be at American Thanksgiving? It's end of November. Right now, we're in the mix of in the Pacific Division race with a few other teams. No team in the Pacific's really running away with it right now. So I think things would have to go real sour in this stretch of games in November for us to be even considering the Oilers being in a spot where they're not going to be able to climb out of it in time.
Okay. Patrick, if the Oilers don't get their poop in a group soon, might be too late. Call me crazy.
I got to call you crazy on this one. I've seen this team, like Lotzi pointed out there, come back way too many times to count them out, even after a bad month. There's too much talent on this team. They like to make it way harder on themselves than it needs to be. But when it really comes down to it, they always find a way to get there. Haven't been able to get over that final finish line yet come the Stanley Cup Finals, but I have no doubt that this team, even a bad November aside, would find a way to get back to the Stanley Cup playoffs in some form or fashion. So got to call you crazy there.
This isn't the same old Oilers to a certain extent. There's been a lot of changes, you guys. There's new personnel. There's youth that don't know how to win. There's sometimes in these, remember when Florida, as they've been going through this streak, President's Trophy and then barely scraped in as a wild card team the next year. Sometimes there's those resets. And this path might lead them down closer to a reset year than a repeat year. That's my fear in this. Like Patrick, maybe the best thing you said there is something you didn't say. And the Oilers always need their back up against the wall and to face some adversity or get slapped in the face before they even get going. So maybe that's what this road trip will be. Sure, doubt them. See what happens. I don't know. Kevin, call me crazy.
I'm going to call you crazy, and for no other reason than I'm required by law to call you crazy, because if I don't, it means I'm losing $100 bet that the Oilers are going to make the playoffs. A buddy of mine bet me $100 that the Oilers wouldn't make the playoffs because they lost Corey Perry this year, and that was going to have a material effect on their leadership. And
he's right so far.
Ain't no chance in hell I'm losing that bet.
Can we get your buddy on the show?
Yeah, if he wants to.
I'm just
that's even in this current modified version of the Oilers, I really don't see a space where they let the ball slip so far as to fall out of playoff contention in some capacity. They may end up being a team that is not as good as last year's ultimately. And we said the same thing. I said, like, game 3 last year, I said this team is not as good as the year before, and I was right. They didn't go as far in terms of, they didn't pull it to game 7. They got pretty handily whacked by Florida this time around. And I think that just boils down to them losing key people in both the offseason and due to injury during the playoff run. And I'm concerned that we're yet another rung down from there, and we're going to have to tune up as we go. With that said, I think that there's $30 million worth of cap space coming at the end of this year that isn't really spoken for, and I think that that's going to, be a bigger thing for next season. But this year, I don't think there's much chance that they don't make the playoffs.
I mean, that cap space coming might be the exact reason that they don't
that they're just
stop
capping a little bit.
And just let's just wait and see, and
especially with the Olympics and stuff.
Exactly. And like, how much of the mind space of Connor and Leon and Eck and anybody else on that team that's going to make the Olympics? There's going to be more.
Sorry, I just want to touch in there.
Well, go ahead, Patrick.
Well, I was going to say, we had our star player, one of our star players, sign a 2-year extension because he wanted to see things happen now. I don't think they can just sit back and allow the team, like, if they make a bunch of changes and they still don't make the playoffs, that's one thing, but they're going to do everything they can to get this team in the playoffs, no matter how bad they're struggling. So, like, I know we're going to have the $30 million and they can do some bigger things then, but I don't think they can have a write-off season right now.
Hot take that if this keeps up, Connor might be one of the reasons we're not in the playoffs, so you can look in the mirror.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I mean, Connor is leading the team in points, but he is sure struggling shooting the puck, man. Holy.
Great, he's leading the team, leading the league. He should be 10 points ahead of everybody else.
Yeah, well, and we have to remember that Connor is not, 24, 25, 26 anymore, right? Like, he is.
Not have that conversation yet. We still need Pete Connor. Let's not go down there.
Oh, and Pete Connor has shown that it still exists, but I have wondered for some time if there isn't an injury that he's been hiding for a while that affects his puck handling.
Well,
I don't know if it's a wrist or a shoulder or whatever, but something is not
Unless
right.
his wrist was snapped in half. Hyman had a dislocated wrist, and we're about to see how bad he's coming out of injury. But McDavid hasn't had anything like that. We're talking 2 full seasons plus, where his shots per game has been way down now. So I have a hard time believing it's injury related.
Unless
it
was something that needed surgery that he didn't have fixed because he's been known to be that guy before, right? And I'm just speculating, right? Like.
Yeah.
It's not just his shooting, Kev. You brought it up on the lowdown with Low Tide. You said like his stick handling looks irregularly off this season too. Like there's
And it's not just this year. It was like the bobbles started happening last year, even
Four
quite a bit.
Nations. He
Yeah.
bobbled in Four Nations. Ultimately, like we all
And I
remember the
don't-
OT goal, but how did he play before that OT goal?
I don't know what. Yeah, exactly. And again, that's no slander. The guy's the best, still
Yeah,
one of,
absolutely.
if not the best player in the world.
Yeah,
From
let
a
me-
thinking of the game point of view, the only guy that I think besides him that's close is either Nate Mack or Leon. Those guys think the game truly at another level. But Connor has been showing a little bit of signs of wear, I think. I think that's
Wow.
really that simple.
That's also a
And
tip for a
that's-
reset year. And if I'm going to say anything, just to finish off this nasty little segment here that I seem to somehow been bad mouthing Connor McDavid on, you said the word concern several times when you were talking there, Kevin. And like my concern is that in your speech and others that I'm hearing is that we're trying to paint another portrait or a new portrait for this season with a similar brush. And I've yet to see anybody in this year's version or this year's portrait to drag this team into a fight yet.
Can I point
And-
out one thing though?
Yeah.
Do you remember where we were at when we were at 2-9-1?
Yep. With
remember-
a team that had guys who could drag guys into
Yeah.
the fight. And we don't have
Right,
that.
but do you remember like these were the exact conversations
I
that
know.
were being had on every podcast in the region at that time?
And you're helping me make my point, Kevin, because what's different right now is that we don't have guys that can drag us back into that fight from 2-9-1. I don't think we do. Maybe Hyman is that guy, but let's not put all that pressure on him. There's been a lot of guys walk out the door in this franchise that were character guys. There's reasons they didn't want CC traded. There's reasons they didn't want five Batty traded. You know, this is stuff that's important to this team, and there's a lot of arrows that point to this being a reset year. And that does scare me a little bit. November might be it. Now, I'll end with this. The flip side to all of it is what all this traveling out east does and packed into condensed schedule now means we got nothing but divisional games down the stretch. And that's when it's going to matter. That's when you can make up points. That's when you can get 3-point games, divisional games. And do I think the Oilers can do that in this year's version of the Pacific? I do.
Yeah, I do think I got one more comment, and that is I think that a lot of teams are struggling this year that we expected to not be struggling. It's not just the Oilers, right? Like there are teams that the standings are wild right now.
It is. The parity's nuts. Yeah.
They're like it's wild what's happening in the standings. I don't think anybody expected it, especially in the Pacific and
Yeah.
the two divisions out west. Like I think that there are some teams that are really struggling to get going this year for whatever reason. That doesn't excuse it. That doesn't, and I agree. I agree that there's a character thing missing here. You know, Brownie clearly thrived under the pressure that, you know, aside from taking 60 whatever games to score his first goal, he clearly loved being here. He was, you know, that Klim Kostin style of guy that just thrived in the spotlight of Edmonton. And I think that, you know, there are, to your point, I think there is a certain missing element of maybe not violence, but just chip, right? Like, I think it's just chip that is missing from this team right now. And maybe it exists within this team and they're just in kind of in a bit of a funk and they're just not really firing on all systems, on all cylinders as an organization at the moment. Who knows? But I'm pretty sure the only direction from here is up. And knowing this team, when they decide to go up, they go up in a big way.
Absolutely. So that's calling me crazy. And we're going to move on to our final segment of the night. We're nearing the end of our time. I know we're off the air on EST already, but we'll keep going on YouTube for another few minutes here. But we're about ready to wrap up here. So I didn't run this one by the group yet, but to close off the show, I'm thinking we're going to do something called Burning Thoughts, where everyone gets a chance to say things that they didn't necessarily get a chance to say during the show or other thoughts that they have on their mind. and also tell us where we can find you, what you've got coming up in the next little while. And we'll go around the horn like that, and we'll call it a night. So we'll just go clockwise tonight, I guess. And our show is going to be hosted by different people every week. So Patrick's going to take the reins next week, and I'm going to go back to the guest chair. And so we'll say the host is going to get last word in this segment. So we'll go clockwise, starting with Kevin and ending with me. So Kevin, final thoughts. Where can we find you? What do you got coming up?
You can find me at Kevin McCurdy on X, Twitter, whatever we're calling it this week. I hang out there quite a bit. I have lots of thoughts on the Oilers. Not all of them are good ones, but I'll take my lumps where I can. I have not a lot going on this week besides hopefully watching the Oilers find their stride in the next game. It's been pretty frustrating to watch where they're at right now. I'm sure they're just as frustrated. And I do want to see some players that have really struggled, that are big names, take a big step in a big way. Bouchard has taken quite a bit of flack recently. Goaltending, same thing. Nurse to an extent as well, although he's had a couple of games that have been better. So is Bouchard. I think the defense core is headed mostly in the right direction, but I do think that the forward group with some lockdown lines will hopefully start putting things together as well. I'd really like to see them put a solid 60 minutes in. The thing that I really miss about this team from 2 years ago, and to a lesser extent last year, was their ability to dictate how they win games.
Yeah.
Not just like beating teams. They picked a way to beat them that particular night. It didn't matter if it was curb stomping them. It didn't matter if it was just outscoring their mistakes. It didn't matter if it was just locking it down defensively. Whatever way, they had about 8 different ways that they could win hockey games, and they could select them at will. And that doesn't really seem to be the case this season. And I'd really like to see some evidence that some of that still exists within this team. That's it for
Awesome.
me.
Thanks, Kev. Dash?
Okay. My brain's in 100 places. First things, I don't know, stop getting leads. Let's just go full Blue Jays and just start coming back in games, and instead of getting 2-goal leads.
Oh, so you want the old Oilers. Got it.
Yeah, that's right. And yeah, when we had guys that drug us into the fight, not like this version of the Oilers that doesn't have any Fs to give. And it's becoming boring hockey, which is absolutely asinine to say when you've got the 2 most entertaining players on God's green earth. Whether that's a coaching mismatch, a coaching deployment issue, yeah, probably. We'll see. I think there's a lot to be said about the Oilers, the way they've been playing. There's a lot to be said about the Oilers and the way they'll be playing, and how that'll dictate the rest of the season goes. I think Kevin said it. This is a very weird year. The parity is crazy. I'm in 3 fantasy drafts, and like second to second last is dictated by 2 points in almost every fantasy draft I'm in. It's we're scoring 3 goals a game. We're giving up 3 goals a game. When you're trying to win like that, there's a fine line. Something we didn't talk about, and I guess maybe I'll use the rest of my time just to touch on that. I'm really looking forward to the Colorado matchup. I think there's going to be some very interesting hockey chess on display, and I'm very intrigued to see how Knoblauch approaches this, given where the team's been, where our weaknesses are, our strengths are, and how that matches up, particularly against the Colorado Avalanche. I believe that Colorado and Edmonton have very similar strengths: speed, transition game, zone exits. They also both struggle in offensive defensemen getting caught. They both struggle in getting caught in transition where they are exposed. The Edmonton Oilers and the coaching staff have 3 days. They got an off day and 2 days to practice. I think we're going to find out whether this team is actually watching film and whether they're actually, because I hate to say it, you guys, but congratulations to Glenn Gullickson on giving the rest of the league a playbook on how to beat us. That was a better game against the Stars than it was against the Blues. And Gullickson basically figured out a way with one line and 4 or 5 of their best players missing to have Wyatt Johnson dangle his way into finding a seam every time he could. And what that recipe was last night, and if you see all the pattern, you guys, it was back to Heiskanen, back to Hurley, slam it on net, and try to get rebounds, because it's clear that the Oilers don't know how to box people out. They don't know how to control rebounds. Our goaltenders aren't good at that right now. And I guarantee you that playbook's there. Get ready for, you know what? Go bet the over on Makar shots for the game, because it's going to be a display of them while the Oilers try to figure out how to contain. And then the same thing on the other end of the ice. So I'll end with that. Really intrigued on seeing how this whole matchup. It's not looking good for Colorado, in my opinion, or for Edmonton against Colorado, in my opinion. But
bet the over for point shots on the Oilers too. I mean, let's get serious.
Sure.
I should have added that into my hot takes, man.
There you go. 2 Trailer Park Girls.
It's waiting for it, Kevin.
Oh man, dude, just enough with the point shots already. Enough. That's it.
But Knobloch seems to care more about getting more shots than the other team and suppressing shots and making sure we're getting shot volume and shot volume from the points. It totally is.
It's a risk management thing.
With a team built to not
but the
risk
point
managers. We don't have risk managers. We have
how
risk
often
creators.
do you end up with a point shot that ends up with an odd man rush the other way, unless you're Darnell Nurse and you miss 13 feet wide, right? Like, how often does it happen?
I know. And not as much as it did with the shin pad assassin, Sakara, but I digress.
And Dash, quickly, where can we find you? You're at Dash in the Park on X. We can find you on the Hangout tomorrow.
Yeah, you said it. At Dash in the Park on X, at Dash in the Park on Facebook. I'm terrible at the rest of social media, but I'm on Threads and I'm on Insta, and same thread there. And yep, you can find me on Edmonton Sports Talks tomorrow on the Hangout. Tommy and Maddie and I will be doing all of this again. Looking forward to it.
Excellent. Perfect. And
This was fun.
Patrick,
Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot, Dash. And Patrick, without further ado.
Well, thanks, guys. It was a great first episode here. Thank you to everybody in the chat for joining us. It really brings the show together when we have the chat going too. It gives us more talking points, get your opinions and stuff. So thank you to everybody for joining us here tonight. I'm looking forward to seeing this team, as Dash pointed out there, with a couple of days of practice, seeing what changes we see, if any. There better be some changes that we see going into Saturday against Colorado. I'm excited to see what happens when Zach Hyman comes back, what kind of changes we see before then. I'm going to the game on Monday against Columbus, so I hope that is the game that Zach Hyman does come back, so I get to see that live. But if he comes back sooner, even better. And yeah, you can find me. I have my own YouTube channel, The Oilers Fanatic. I'm on X, Facebook, Blue Sky, Instagram, all those places. So you can find me there. So I think that's all for me, guys. I'll hand it off to Mr. Lotzi. Fantastic job tonight, Lotzi. Let's wrap her up.
Yeah, thanks, Patrick. And my thoughts, Kevin pointed it out earlier in the show, and this is something I've been saying for quite a while about this season, is that I'm viewing it as more of a transitional season than anything. Just because we're as tight as we are with the cap because of Leon and Boucher's new contracts. Each of them got over $6 million worth of a raise. And that took out all the cap jump that we just got from the league. So we had to get younger. We had to get cheaper because of that. And it's going to be harder to add at the deadline this year. We're not going to magically have LTIR money available. And even if we did, it's going to be a lot harder to use because of the new LTIR rules this year. And there's also a rule about double transactions. You can't do a deal like you did with the Frederick deal. So you can't get a guy for like 400K on the cap, right? So it's going to be a lot harder to add anything significant at the deadline this year, especially for the Oilers because their cap's strapped. So it's going to really be dollar in, dollar out, right? So how many significant additions can we really make at the deadline this year? So we could see
Settle
a
down
year
there, Ken Holland. Jeez.
So it could be a year where they take a step back, unfortunately, as much as I hate to say it, because I want to see them win it all for the next 10 years. But it might not happen this year. And that puts a lot of pressure on next summer's $1 billion worth of cap space that we're going to have to play with. And with that, I want to say thank you to everybody for tuning in for the premiere of the Heavy Hockey Podcast. And thanks to the crew at Edmonton Sports Talk, Dustin Nielsen, Matt Iwanek, and the gang for letting us have some space in their schedule to be on their airwaves. And with that, I'll say thanks a lot, everybody, for tuning in and being in the chat. We'll see you again next week. Have a good night.